Have you outsourced your human relationships to a robot? A machine? A soulless metal box? Well, my friends, we've got some solutions to bring you back to one-on-one communication. And I've got Hal Werner here with me, back again, the mailman on the Mr. Rogers Show, here to give us some fresh perspectives. Hal, welcome.
Thank you, Ken. I do bear a message, and that is that in many ways, being automatic about how you do things in marketing, automatic can be the enemy. And I know that flies in the face of a lot of wisdom right now, and I'll clarify as we move on. But what I mean by being automatic is really just the idea that of kind of doing things without thinking, of always using a template, of always doing what you've done before, of not being intentional. Something that's not specifically designed for purpose is never going to be as good as something that is designed for purpose. And so that's where we get the risk of being automatic about things.
So why is automatic bad? Basically, you've got a few options, right? You've got mass emails, you've got like MailChimp, Marketo, Campaign Monitor. There's a whole bunch of email blast software out there that can tap into your CRM system, and those are great. But I think you want to supplement that, right? Because you've probably got, I mean, if you're a big company or you're walking on water and stuff like that, you've got thousands of followers. So you're going to email blast something out to a couple thousand people. But it's not really going to be personalized, right? Because a lot of email collection forms and stuff, you may have like their first name, but that's really it. You're not going to put anything like, hey, we had a great time fishing last week, something like that, something like a personal note. Like you're just not going to get that in the email blast.
Yeah, and I think here's where it comes down to layers, right? Because the truth is, most companies don't have the resources to send a personal, individualized note to each and every one of their potential customers or prospects or existing customers. There's just too many of them. That's where automation comes from in the first place. A lot of the time, you don't even have that information to be able to do it. But what you can do is do those things in a more personal way. So if you have a note that's going out about a new release of one of your products, then if you've been smart, you've got a list that delineates who the customers of only those products are. And so you can email just those people. Mm-hmm. And once you have a more specific list, you can be more personal with the message. You could even segment it more, once again, if you have the proper information, to where if you've had people that have had the product for a very long time, you give them one message, and you give a different message to people who've only recently purchased the product and maybe less certain about how the upgrade's going to work or that sort of thing.
Right, and that's the key word there, the segmentation. And actually, you'll find that in a lot of the email programs where they actually call it segmentation.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's once you're actually within the campaign too, right? Because there's a whole nother layer of being automatic and how you address it. And if you could imagine, you've got an email nurture track, right? You feed leads into your nurture track, and that's supposed to help develop them over the time into customer. It's a great idea, awesome. But what if you've got a whole bunch of different campaigns running, and you're just feeding them all into that same nurture track? Is the campaign they come off of make any sense to go into the beginning point of that nurture track? Because that's automatic thinking. Hey, we've got this thing. Yep. We can automatically just put everybody in it. Well, wait a minute. Maybe let's not be automatic. Maybe let's think for a minute that our nurture track is very general and that our campaign was incredibly specific. Maybe it was cartoon themed, or maybe it was like survival in the woods themed. And maybe you need something to bridge them into the nurture track. Or maybe that campaign needs its own nurture track entirely. Sometimes that's a question of resources, but you can, if you don't stop and think about those things, if you don't stop being automatic in that way, then what you can end up doing is creating a really disjointed experience that demonstrates to a customer you're not thinking about them. You're not you're not really trying to talk to them specifically, and they can really realize how automated it is. Mm-hmm. As soon as they feel like they're not special, then you've lost them in some ways.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, it's hard to do. I mean, let's face it. I mean, if you've got a lot of campaigns running in your big company, I mean, it takes a lot of effort and development to think that through. A lot of marketing people. It's not easy. But what we could do is sort of supplement our marketing automation with real communications. And what in the sales world, what they'll say is, they have a whale hunter, and you don't send an automated, email to a whale.
Sure,
I mean, you can, but that doesn't make them feel special at all. And if there's if there's millions of bucks on the line, sure enough, you're flying to their office, you're on the phone, and you're sending personal emails.
Yeah, that's another great example of not being automatic, because you could say, hey, each and every single person who comes in to our lead generation campaign gets put in this nurture track. Well, maybe you want to not be automatic. Maybe you want to stop and think about segmenting out. If someone's has a business of a certain size or greater, they don't go to that. They go directly to a salesperson, and you go chase them one-on-one.
Yeah, or you add them to just like a certain segment where maybe it's the app updates, right? Because let's say I'm using an app, and if I am a whale, I may want those updates. I may want to know what's going on with the. I may want to know what's going on, with the app, and I don't care that it's automated, because I kind of get that. Yeah, they kind of have to automate that stuff.
Well, right. I think we're kind of jumping between two examples, right? If you're getting an app update for something you already have, you're going to expect a certain amount of automated notices if it's being, if the app's being updated or if the terms of conditions change. There are certain things that people actually expect to be kind of automated. Right. But there's other things. If you were trying to get that, that whale potential customer who's not a customer yet to buy, $2 million worth of computer equipment for for their business, then that's a very different story. That's definitely something you're going to want to try to probably put in one-on-one contact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can flag it in a lot of CRM systems. You can, mark somebody as a lead, and then you can send them. If you have a big sales force, you can send them to your top salesperson, and say, hey, this is a whale. Be careful. Don't send your stooge sales force after this guy, because you're gonna ruin the relationship.
Sure. And so but between segmenting, I think the answer to kind of not being automatic, stop and think about what you're doing before you're doing it. Use segmentation as much as you're able to be more personalized, but still be able to use some automation. And then there's handoff points where you stop being automated and start being personal. You can schedule automated messages to go out on social media. And as long as you're not being ornery, that can be fine. Mm-hmm. But if you have some really highly engaged followers that could turn into key influencers, then those are people you're going to want to start having more one-on-one interaction with.
Right.
Maybe they don't have to check your feed to know that a product release is coming up, because you're personally messaging them ahead of the time to let them know, because you know that they can amplify your message for you.
Exactly. And there's a great tool. It's actually a CRM system called Nimble that integrates with social, and I use it. I love it. What it allows you to do is add someone as a contact into the CRM system, and then it will say, "Hey, is Joe Smith? Is this his Google Plus account? Yes, it is. Let's add that in to his record. Is this his Facebook account? Sure, let's add that in. Is this his Twitter account? Yeah, let's add that in." And so it allows you to build a full profile of this person, and it allows you to listen. And what it does is it can aggregate all these streams for you, and you can find out really what's going on, in their life, and you have something to talk about. So it's a really great listening tool And it offers all the other standard CRM stuff, where you can create deals and leads and follow-ups and things like that. But it just makes it super easy to get a handle on all these on all your contacts, and add notes and stuff, and you can mention about these personal relationships, and it even ties in with Gmail, so you could probably even email these people while you're in the app.
So, very cool.
Yeah, it's really.
And that's another example of being able to balance automation with with personal contact, because you can use that tool in an automated way to gather that information, which wouldn't be really practical for a person to do. But then once you have the information, you're able to take personal action on it.
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, like with old school sales, right? They always want to find a connection with somebody, right? Something to talk about. Like, hey, you like golf. I like golf, Let's talk about golf and let's make a deal, and,
exactly.
And with Nimble and social listening, you can do that. You can, but it allows you, it's much more granular, right? Because you're seeing, the everyday items that they're talking about. So it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's I've heard it said before, that people buy the relationship, not the product.
Yep, that's true. And exactly. And relationships, you really can't. I mean, you can automate, part of the relationship, through these awesome tools that we have, these email blast tools and powerful CRM systems. But really, I mean, at the end of the day, you gotta pick up the phone. You gotta, write a personal email. Sometimes you got to see them in person, right? I mean, that's kind of the way it is.
Yeah.
And you need to spend the time. Unfortunately, it seems like we have all these great tools, that give us a lot of flexibility and allow us to do a lot of things at once. But you really can't scale the personal human relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of pieces you can scale, but you can't scale that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm if I want to reach out to a bigwig, I'm not going to send somebody else in place of me because it's too important and it doesn't mean anything. So I have to take the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm going to do that and I'm going to personally email people, that's going to take a good chunk of my day. That's going to take a few hours. Crafting something special. And I even had this idea. I was like, you know what? Maybe I can just reach out. I could reach out through video as well. I mean, what's more personal than other than being in person? Maybe video.
Yeah.
Maybe video is the next step. I mean, emails, great, but maybe you could reach out to somebody on Twitter or something and say, hey, look, I've got something to say to you. Here's the video. I think that's the next step.
Yeah, I mean, there was I saw a great example of a person applying for a job who did anything but be automated. Now, a lot of us, we get our resumes together and you can send that same resume out to company after company. This woman not only customized her resume, she didn't even bother too much with that part of it. But what she did was she created a very personalized video that showed exactly why she was right for that particular position. And by taking that extra time on that one job, versus spending, hours blasting out that same resume to everybody she could find, she nailed it. It was hands down, no question. Like, when can you start?
Right. And I think with all these social media tools, we kind of hide behind this wall, right? This internet wall, and you can't be scared. I mean, that's the thing. I think with with these relationships and sales and whatnot. You can't be scared. You got to write that email. You got to reach out. And maybe you got to do a video. You got to get on the phone. These things for a lot of people nowadays, I think these are probably challenging things, but I mean, you have to do it, and it's much more meaningful. And when you build these relationships, people will do things for you, and you'll do things for them, and it's what they call a win-win situation.
Well, we certainly like those.
Yes, we do. Well, thank you very much, Hal, for joining us here. And how can people reach you?
People can reach me two main places. They can find me online at my website, halwerner.com. They can also find me on Twitter at Hal Werner.
Great. And people can reach me at kenmariko.com, on Twitter, just at kenmariko. If you want to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, I would love that. Just go to kenmariko.com/iTunes. You can give a rating. That would be fantastic. And thank you for listening.